Hi, everyone. Brad here, Delta Awesome, helping business leaders change things into awesome. And today we're going to talk a little bit about equity and founders' equity. It's one of those really confusing things that happen inside of startup land, high growth land, and even advanced companies. And the reason I'm bringing this up today, just to anchor you, is I have a company that's going from stealth mode, a bunch of people working part time, loosely held, into hiring a lawyer, filing their Delaware C Corp, and about to be making 6 to 8 figures in their first set of deals. Equity became very important very quickly, went from philosophy to practicality. So, what are the lessons I would give to somebody who doesn't have a ton of time and availability to just think, how do I want to plan this in the past? Plan this in the past means 2020 hindsight. So, here's some of the things that you really, really want to look out for. And the first one is after the founding team, never, please listen to me, ever talk percentages ever again. If someone wants to backtrack into what percentage of a company they own, they can do the math. That's fine. You always talk in terms of stock. You will, for working here, get 10,000 shares of stock. The stock is currently valued at 2 cents a share, and you will vest that in 25% increments on the first of every year. Great, nothing wrong with that. Saying you have 18% of the company and you're going to vest 25% of that every year for these years, it's always a mistake. It's a mind gremlin, and people start doing comparison shopping. And there really is no comparison between the founding team and somebody who comes on 18 months later or 36. They're apples, oranges, and rocks. How do we solve for that? Language. Tell the person what they're getting. Also, remember, almost everyone outside of the founding team isn't going to get a meaningful set of voting rights. Maybe together as a collective they do. That's fine. Another issue for another time. But their information rights and their voting rights are usually so limited. Really, the people want equity for what? Well, they want the cash. That's why telling them how much stock they have, how much it's worth, and where the company's going. And then, of course, every year telling them if it grew or didn't grow, if it's become a liquid or illiquid, helps so much more. You're actually pre digesting the cognitive load for the people you're handing this to. Second, always watch out for dead equity, especially founders' equity. I can't tell you in the last 10 years how many times I've encountered a company that has a poison pill cap table. What does that mean? It means an investor cannot invest in the company with the cap table the way it is. Now, it's a mistake to say a poison pill cap table can't be rehabbed. It's just time, effort, negotiation, money, all that stuff. The classic example works like this: five founders come together and they start in an accelerator. Yes, I'm looking at you, my friends in Montana. And each of them, it brings something to the chili, some kind of spice. There's a person who brought the team together. There's a subject matter expert. There's the executive. There's the salesperson. Everyone brought something to the table. But in my experience, which is pretty long by now, about 25% of founding teams leave before meaningful milestone one, whether that's first revenue, whether that's getting into an accelerator, whether that's raising capital, whether that's cash flow positivity. Think in terms of 25% of these people are leaving. If you have five people, that's more than one person. In other words, you're pretty much guaranteed one of them's going to leave. Okay, let's say that's true. And by the way, if you have less people, the chances change, but still, one founder's almost always going to leave. What happens to their equity? Well, if they fully vested a full share, in that case, five founders, full share, 20% each, if one or two of those leaves, now they get to have upside on this company for whatever it does for the entire history of always. Well, when you add in, you're going to have new management that comes and goes. There's going to be people who stay for a period of time and a lifetime. You're going to have investors. Are you going to do one, two, three, five, 9 rounds of investment? Every time that happens, this dead founder's equity becomes a lodestone around your neck. This is why vesting schedules are so important, and I believe in them very, very strongly. And I believe in projecting out vesting schedules for as long as you can. If someone's going to get a full founder share, which I think is anything more than 10%, some people say it's 30, they need to not only have a really long vesting schedule, basically to keep them aligned for the whole time, but I also highly advocate for buyback provisions. What's a buyback provision? The company is allowed to buy your stock at a preset schedule or way. For instance, work with your lawyer, work with your finance people. But for instance, in that case of having five founders and 20%, if there had been a buyback structure that had said, after the first 2 years, so you can't do it day one, you got to have a little time. After the first 2 years, the company is allowed to buy back your stock up to 51% of your stock, up to 99% of your stock. Pick your number, period of time, amount the company has an option to buy. You don't get to choose for a predetermined value. I don't know, 3 times EBITDA, 5 times revenue. Pick your number, something where somebody can say, I left some on the table, but I got something out first. I personally am always a fan of people, especially angel investors, getting these for 50% of their stock can be bought back for their investment plus a risk adjusted rate. S&P 500 rate for those years times 3, right? Something like that. Why am I putting all this together? Is because you want to be able to diffuse dead equity so you can use it for other things. You can either put that back as what's called a treasury stock. The company owns it, can give it to somebody else, or you can just retire the stock. Doesn't matter exactly what you do with it. Dead equity will be a lodestone around your neck because if one of these founders is gone and now you're thinking, gosh, I'm working my tail off every day. I can't bring in more team because I don't have the equity to pay him. And all of the value is going to go to Joe over there who hasn't been around for 1,000 days and isn't going to be around. And maybe I don't like anymore is the reason they're gone. That's so incredibly difficult. And the last thing I'm going to talk to you about, so that's 3 of the 4 things I want to talk to you about. Debt equity, never talk percentages, buyback options. And then also, once you move from founder to salaried employees, there's 2 concepts to keep in mind. The equity accomplishes 2 things there. Number one, if they're taking a below market salary, but you want to get the best people possible, you got to make it up to them. Equity is the preferred mechanism for making it up to them. That's great. Fine. But that also helps you understand if somebody's worth 150 or 300 grand a year and you can only pay them 60% of that because that's what cash flows and investment tell you can do, you need to make up that other part with the upside of equity, but it's got to be a risk adjusted rate. This is why it's okay to pay someone, I don't know, let's say you pay somebody 150 grand a year, they should be getting 200, but that extra 50,000 they're getting in equity is someday going to be worth 5 years salary, right? It can have a big pop, but you don't give someone like that everything because you're giving them salary. So the beginning is founders. We talk percentages. Then we move on to lowered salaries employees that were making it up for it. Those are price per stock. And then the last thing is no one should ever get rich in a startup or high growth company off of their salary and benefits, but they should be made financially stable and healthy as soon as you can. Get people up to market rates, give them 401ks, give them all these things because the stability of the team is actually the rocket fuel, not the marketing, not the new product line, not the other thing. Once you get to the place where you can pay full salaries, pay full salaries. The cap on that is no one should get rich off their full salary in a high growth company. Getting rich is what your equity does. So those 3 phases of equity: founder, early employees, stable employees. That's how you want to treat equity. Thank you so much for your time. I know this was a lot to digest. Of course, I have to say thank you to the book Venture Deals, which was a part of a class that I took 15 years ago before the book came out. I'm so thankful for that being the baseline for everyone to go back and find out anything else they need to know about these issues. I appreciate you all. Have a good day.